Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel in these encounters with beautiful and inspiring minds. Please think of liking and subscribing so that you too can become part of this process of spreading beautiful ideas that could bring us all closer to the truth. And also, if you're interested in spreading your message out there, please write me so that we can book an appointment and create this network of meaningful conversation. So the purpose of all these meetings is to give you all the possibility to explore inside beautiful minds and different universes, such as I do in my work. Now listen to them, watch them, inspire from them, and learn from them, and mostly see that change is possible. So let's welcome Leigh Hallendorff. Welcome, Leigh.
Hi, thank you.
Well, I know Leigh for a few weeks only. We got to meet during this period of confinement, as we are part of, let's call it a project, right? A series of talks that we do online every Tuesday and Friday, discussing various subjects, mostly to help people cope with this unprecedented times. You can find out more on our Facebook pages and join us there as well, if you think you need that. And now she studied, let's talk about her a little bit. She studied the human mind for over 25 years. And despite her own adversity, she has emerged victoriously. She's passionate about helping others. Aren't we all, Leigh? She's passionate about helping others find joy and reach their potential. Now, her background is in corporate marketing, and she has the following qualifications. Now, this is a long list. So she is hypnotherapist and NLP practitioner. Hypnotherapist and NLP practitioner and integrated coach. Then hypnosis practitioner, evolved coaching stress biofeedback practitioner. I'm curious about this one, Leigh. Evolved life coach, hypnotherapist, practitioner of Ericksonian hypnotherapy, parts therapist, time-based techniques practitioner, and time paradigm techniques practitioner. I hope we tap into that, Leigh, because these ones are actually quite interesting work. Now, Leigh, your background is so rich. And I'm now very curious about finding more about all that. So please tell me, what pushed you into studying all these disciplines?
So what made me do it was actually adversity. I was in marketing and very, corporate and happy, and I loved it. I really, really do. And in many ways, I sort of missed that sort of interaction and the high-powered sort of whatever. But I unfortunately fell off a horse and suffered quite a bad head injury. And due to that, I wasn't able to get back into, I suppose I could have if I'd really wanted to. From that incident, it was like a turnaround in my life. I completely lost 9 months, 10 months of my life where I have no memory whatsoever of what happened. I had to learn how to walk and how to, kind of really had to start my life over. I had a 2-year-old son and my husband had to do everything for me. But after that month, when I started to get my memory back and started to sort of interact a bit and, live again, I guess, I found that I couldn't get happy. I couldn't find any power, any strength. And I lost muscular strength and stuff. I used to do triathlons and running and, all that kind of stuff. So I lost a lot of that, and that was making me depressed because I no longer had the energy or the power or the strength to do what I used to do. And I tried to get a job, but there was no passion. There was nothing in there. I didn't have it within me. I was very, very thin and very frail and depressed. Somebody suggested I go and see an NLP practitioner. And so this NLP thing kind of clicked in my head, and I thought, oh no, I want to go and do this. So I went to somebody who was a practitioner of NLP coaching. She studied through Evolved, which is why I went to them. And she did a bit of hypnotherapy with me. And that was the catalyst. That was the little thing that clicked me back into finding some positivity in my life. That was the thing that clicked me into, getting back on the wheel of being strong. I don't think I'll ever be quite what I was before. I'm sort of like nearly, but primarily I'm back, but in a different way. And my life just suddenly shot completely in the opposite direction. So instead of rising up the corporate ladder, I went off in this kind of sort of learning phase of things. And I went off and I did the initial course with Evolve. And during that course, that very first introduction I had into any of this sort of field of therapy or help was a brief section on hypnotherapy. And I nearly had a heart attack because, you know, coming from a Christian background, I didn't want to do anything or have anything to do with hypnosis because I had been led to believe, and I suppose maybe I hadn't even been led to believe, it was just commonly thought that there was some kind of danger in it or that somebody would control my mind or something. And so I said to the guy, I said, you know, I'm actually not willing to work with you. I'm not willing to do hypnosis because it goes against my brain. And he just said to me, just do me a favor. And he said, just listen. That's all you have to do. Listen to the theory. If you listen to the theory and you choose not to do the rest of it, that's fine. If you choose to, that's great. But I won't mark you down. I won't fail you on the course if you don't do it. But you need to take an educated decision on this, as opposed to just I've heard it's bad, whatever. And it was the most fascinating experience for me because it has become much more my passion than anything else is the hypnotherapy side of things. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I work with it, and I landed up studying, you know, years of studying I've done with the sort of hypnosis side of things. Now that I understand it, now that I know it, and now that I myself have overcome the myths and misconceptions and whatnot. So I suppose that was the start of my journey. And it's sort of from there I've kind of just flowed in various directions.
So regarding what you just said, Leigh, I have a couple of questions for you. Let's go back a couple of phrases ago. You have mentioned that you haven't managed to go back to what you used to be. Is it that what you really wanted? And in what sense?
I guess it's the bodily strength. It's the muscle. It's the muscular strength. It's from, you know, I'm no longer able to do the triathlons or the marathons or the things that I used to do. So physically, yes, I would love that. Interestingly, from an ego point of view, one likes the idea of being a director of a company. You know what I mean? That sort of, you know, the big corporate. It's, you know, handing out the business card is far more good egotistically wise. But as far as growth goes and helping people and, you know, I would say no, because I don't, you know, we can't go back in life, and I don't want to go back, and I don't want to be somebody else because I've grown so much through this experience, and also from not being in the corporate, I've had the opportunity to be with my son growing up. You know, I had an interesting, crazy, another story about how I landed up having a son at some age because I have no fallopian tubes, and I landed up falling pregnant naturally. So it's very strange, but I wouldn't have been able to be around for him, and I am. You know, so I've got to say, no, I don't want to be what I was, but yes, I do. I would love to have little elements of, you know, particularly physical strength.
So do you think there was a lesson in what happened? If you are to think back at this moment of your life, what would be that essence that you could extract from this specific event?
I suppose slow down, really, and connect. The one thing that I found continually that's happened since then is a growing desire to connect with something that's more than me. And I think ever since then, more and more, there's been a more real, a more depth, personal growth and a personal connection with something that's greater than me. Yeah, so I would say the word, to answer your question properly, I would say it's a connectedness, it's a groundedness that I certainly never had before. And when I mentioned that was very ego-based, this isn't. And I think the truth of life and the reason that we're here is far more about helping people and making a difference in the way that we have to do it. And if it was for me to be in that corporate world making a difference there, that's also good. But there's something different about being able to do it in the way that I do it now.
And if there was a metaphor for this particular event in your life, what would you say?
Oh, without a doubt, it would be let go of the sort of the ego side of things. Because I knew when I was riding that horse, I was learning to ride. I wasn't a rider or anything. But I remember saying to the person who was with me, I'm scared. But she said, never mind, you can do it. And because I was a Pilates instructor and I was strong and I had the gut, the core strength and all the rest of it, I believed her, and my whole life was, oh, well, I can do it. But I was afraid And that's even more so it. I was afraid and I never spoke up. I said, I'm scared. And she said, we're just going to trot a bit more and then we'll stop or whatever. And I suppose the fact that I was on the horse I was on, which was a wrong horse for a beginner, was my sort of myself feeling important and feeling good. But the fact that I never had the strength to stand up to her and say, no, I'm scared. I'm not trotting anymore. I think that's probably a far greater lesson that I've never thought about before now, right now. Because so often I don't speak my truth, or I don't speak stuff because I don't want to upset somebody else. And I think if there's a metaphor or one, I mean, I've learned so many lessons from the sort of the ego side, which is why I snapped with that. But I think the one thing I have never come or thought about in this context is that it's okay to be me. It's okay to stand up for what I believe and the way I see it. I don't have to do things to please others.
And it's okay to say no.
Yeah, you see, you are the catalyst for a beautiful learning. Thank you.
You're very welcome. No, because I was simply curious. It was something in there and I wanted to tap into that. And you have also mentioned earlier, let me remember how you said it. You said that you had the first meeting with that NLP practitioner when you did some hypnosis and you were depressed or having this hard time dealing with yourself and being happy back then. And then something shifted. Can you please tell me about that process? What changed and how did it feel? Because what I want people to tap into is from feeling really low, moving into something that gives them enough fuel to go even further. And that's precisely what happened to you from what you told me.
I actually do. I think, you know, that when you mentioned about time-based techniques, she did some time-based techniques with me. But I think what changed was, I think that the most important thing was the desire. And I often say this with people, you know, if a client comes to me and they have the desire to work on themselves and they take responsibility. And I think that's what happened was I got to the point where I was ready to take responsibility, to play all in and to change my life. I wanted it to work. I wanted to change. I knew because the doctor said you've got fibromyalgia and all this stuff. And I thought, I don't want to be a mom who can't walk to the back of the car without falling apart. You know, I want to have some energy. I want it. It was such a strong desire in me to listen and to take responsibility for my own healing. I didn't expect the NLP practitioner to help me. I didn't expect that. Well, she was a coach, whatever she was, I don't know. But I didn't expect her to do the work, but I played it all in. So when she spoke to me, I listened and I worked with her. When she said to me, visualize this, imagine that, I threw myself into it with absolutely everything. And I don't before ever remember having to do something like that. So I can physically strongly remember her saying, now imagine this. And I allowed myself to imagine it. And also I accepted that, you know, some people visualize clearly, like when I work with a client and they'll see, I'll say, imagine you're in a garden or you're in a place from nature. And they will pick up this beautiful place that they just make up and they physically see it in their mind's eyes. Whereas other people, they kind of have to think it. Okay, now I like dam, so there's going to be a dam there, or I like this, so there's going to be, and they actually make it up in the head as they're going along. Other people just sense it. They have this feeling. So it's that whole senses thing. And it depends on where we're strong at it. And I allowed myself to be me and to do it the way it was for me. Yes, I would love to have these visual images that people come up with. It's amazing. But for me, it's more a sensing and a kind of placing it in my mind where it is. But allowing myself to follow her. And then when she said to me, go home. And when you go home, I want you to do X, Y, and Z. Get this book, read it, do this, do it. And I must say, I think it was because I took responsibility because I did not want to be a depressed, miserable, sick, horrible mother. I wanted my son to grow up with some joy.
Maybe this is where the desire was coming from, because that was my next question. where do you think this desire to feel good and to get over and to break through comes from? When even in times when we are so down and depressed, because obviously it was a very difficult situation for you. It was a real challenge, physically,
Yeah.
mentally, everything. You had to restart all over. And you were down there, but there was this desire to do it. Where do you think it comes from? Isn't that amazing?
It is, but also I think it also came from, I had suffered from depression before. I'd had bouts of the depression. And I just know that it's an unbearable way to live. And, you know, prior to having a child, when I had, you know, had that experience previously, you know, I found myself thinking thoughts of self-destruction and whatever, you know, people go through that. And I don't have a fear in any way of dying. But then all of a sudden I had this little human being, you know, and he was only 18 months, 2 years old when it happened. And I guess there becomes a desire that why would I want him to have to live without a mom? You know, so there wasn't the option of going down the victim role and going, oh, let me think if only I could die or something like that, which is, I guess it's quite self-indulgent in its way, but you're so far down and you're so swept into it that it becomes a reality and you allow yourself to fall into that puddle or that pool. But I just couldn't allow that, because here's this little human being who's reliant on me. You know, I've been given a responsibility. I've been given this little miracle from God. And I think every child is a miracle, but he really was quite the most weird thing that happened. Yeah, I think in a way it came from that. It was like, you've got this responsibility, you have a reason to be here, so you better jack up and do something about it, because I didn't want to live that miserable. I really didn't want to be, you know, that grumpy for my whole life. It's such a horrible place to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what would you say to someone who is struggling now with heavy depression, with very difficult challenges? Would you suggest that they search for an area of motivation, an area of desire? It's not only desire, something else in there. Let's tap into that.
I think there becomes a why power and a willpower. You know, the willpower is, you know, I have a will to do it, but why do you want to do it? You know, why? What is it?
So we're tapping into the values, right?
Yeah. But I also think that, you know, it's a hell of a difficult thing, because everybody's very different. So if I'm working with depression, I need to be working one-on-one with that person and finding out, so, you know, what is it that's creating it? What's causing it? And then I would recommend that the person finds a therapist that they connect with, that they can easily communicate with, that they can trust, that they know is not going to have any, you know, I have my code of ethics up on the wall in my office, and it basically is, whatever happens in my room with me is, there's no judgment. You have the choice to believe and to do what you want. I'm not judging. And whatever we say is confidential. So I think that's the one thing. Also then is determining the level of fear, of depression, how long it's been going on. See, no one size fits all.
No, absolutely. But what I want you to understand more is how it happened for you, because there's always a strategy in place, right? That's why we learn in NLP. There's always a number one thing we do and the number two. So what was for you the first thing that you did prior to your mom telling you about this NLP practitioner?
Okay, now that goes long before. That was before even before I even had that accident. Okay. The first thing that ever tapped me into it was, I was hugely overweight, grossly overweight, at least a lot of more kilograms than now, 20 kgs more. And I was very unhappy with it. And that was, you know, the time I was talking about. And somebody, well, it's actually my mom again. Funny, I think she's my catalyst. She sent me a book by Louise Hay calling You Can Heal Your Life. And I would say that was a thing that I was traveling across America at the time. I spent 7 years just traveling the world. And I was on an Amtrak train, and I remember reading it and starting to write down the things, specifically weight related. And I think that was the very first time I started looking into anything like this. And then I went to a psychologist to help me with the weight, and she sent me off to Overeaters Anonymous, and, you know, all those little things where I had to congratulate myself on the good stuff and whatnot.
And obviously it worked. So obviously what you did brought the fruits.
Yeah, no, it did, because I mean, it was a long process of losing weight. My brother was very ill during his life. He was diabetic, and I spent 9 months looking after him. And during that time, from doing all the work that I had done, I didn't even do a regular diet at that point. I came back to South Africa and I looked after him doing just eating his diabetic diet, that GI, keeping, and that in itself just got myself back into some form of balance. But it worked brilliantly. Yeah. And that's manifestation in a way, I guess, was, I had the goals, I wrote them out, I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and yeah.
So basically you learned a little bit on how it works if you want to change things, how it works when you want to make things happen, what you need to do in order to change what you are unhappy with, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So with all these techniques that you've learned, because you've learned quite a few, what do you think changed inside you? Who are you today as compared to before learning all that?
I'm a far more resourceful person. I can identify and find when I'm down, and I'm prepared to look out and ask for help. So if I'm having a really down time, sometimes I can't deal with it myself. On the whole, I can say, okay, today we're going to get me back into normal. We're going to, click into something positive, whatever. But I'm willing to say to someone else, another practitioner, I'm willing to say, I'm struggling at the moment. Can we do a session? Can we do something where you can help me? So I'm more resourceful. I'll find it from within myself first normally, but there are times, like for example, this COVID, it has created, bumps in the road. And so I'm resourceful within myself, but I'm also resourceful with knowing that there's more than just me. And instead of going down that rabbit hole, which I would beforehand of I suppose it's like victim is kind of one of the words that I'm thinking, but it's like a fear cycle, really. And that's where the anxiety, I guess, comes in when you have the fear. Whereas now I can find ways, and I use little techniques. I use little finger and thumb techniques sometimes, we'll say, and I'll prepare myself for something, which is hugely powerful.
And what other little techniques are you using?
I use a lot of breath work. So lots and lots and lots of breathing. Breathing in, allowing whatever it is, the stress, the density of the body, the anger, even pain. If you feel pain, I'll breathe the breath to that area, and I'll hold the breath and allow whatever it is that's bothering me to attach to the breath. And I'll hold it for as long as I possibly can. And when I'm ready, I will release it down the body and out through the feet. So I'll breathe out through the mouth, but I'll let the anxiety go. That's one thing, and I'll do that a few times. That doesn't just happen once. But then the other thing is being in nature. So sitting and doing that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique, where you sit. I prefer it in the garden or nature, but you can do it inside your house. So you're so focused on the thoughts and the anxiety going on inside of you that then if you literally think of 5 things that you can see, not think of, look around and see 5 things. What can I see? I can see the trees, the grass, there's usually a lot of things to see around you. 4 things that you can hear. And it's interesting because there's always things that you can hear, because then you're stopping yourself. You're stopping that cycling of the brain, cycling up into beta and up above way beta, letting yourself go down onto the alpha brain levels, which is the more relaxing, the hypnosis, hypnotic sort of brain waves. And you hear amazing things, like, little birds or whatever. Then there you look at 3 things you can feel. So what can you actually physically feel? I can feel my bum on the chair. I can feel my hands in my lap. I can feel the clothes on my skin. I can feel the air, the temperature on my skin. 2 things you can smell, I think. Yeah, 2 things you can smell. And then 1 thing you can taste. And by that point already, I've calmed the anxiety down, and I'm now in a more resourceful state to move forward. Otherwise, what I'll do is go through the colors of the rainbow, and I've got ones that, the different colors represent different things for me. So I'll work with you now. The red, if you experience the color red, it's a very quick way for me to get somebody to relax, or to get myself to relax, is let the red represent the body. So however you experience that, whether you're experiencing the red now as a fruit or something that you love that's red, or whether you just allow the color to come to mind, whether you think of it as little planets that you're beginning to float up to this beautiful red and just allowing the body to relax. And then we go into the color orange. And again, you can float up on these beautiful little planets of orange and experience the color orange. And as you do, let your emotions drift, float, go. And then yellow. And as you experience the color yellow, just still the mind and float. If you need to float, still your mind. And now just gently drift up to green. And as you do, allow peace to overcome you, or to come over you, or to fill your entire being. And experience the color blue, symbolic of love, as you just let love flow through you. And then you shift into purple, which is a color of aspiration. And what is it that I aspire to? What is that you want to feel, be, do? And then drift gently into violet. And that's just harmony. And in this state of harmony, you can work on whatever it is that you may want to do, visualize, picture, experience, the goal, whatever it is.
Wow, it's so relaxing. I'm in a trance now.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
You can tell me whatever you want now. I will believe you and I'll take it in. And
nice and susceptible. Good.
Talking about beliefs, because, you know, we learn in NLP that we all have this inner representation of the world. So if you could tell me how this inner representation changed for you, who or how you used to see the world before and how you see today after all these years, practicing all these techniques, helping so many people, and learning so much about these inner mechanisms.
I believe firmly that and now I believe, I might not have all the time, because you know what it's like growing up with mothers and things like that, but honestly, Susanna, I had the most amazing mom on God's planet. Really, she struggled a lot. She married, my dad was an alcoholic. My brother was born with severe juvenile diabetes, so he died through that. So she lost her son. She obviously had to spend a lot of time on him and not on me, which is perhaps what caused me all some issues that I had, was that, you know, my brother got this and that. But over the years, she was, to me, she was love. Her life purpose, the person she was, and probably is now, because I still sometimes feel that she's with me, was love. And her support, especially after my brother died, I suddenly sort of had this mom kind of thing, because she no longer had to look after him or feel guilty, whatever, but she had lots of other struggles. But I think the person that's made me into me, and the belief in what I've changed into, definitely does come a lot from her. When she died, she got cancer, and it was quite short. It wasn't a hell of a long sort of experience, but she was ready. And she was at the point in her life where she'd been through so many phases. She'd learned, you know, she was a strong Christian when we were little, and we went to Sunday school. And then she went through phases of being angry and doing whatever, you know, that sort of that anger feeling that you go through, because I suppose of my brother being ill and whatnot. And then, you know, she explored so many different routes. She was open to exploring. She was open and interested in everybody else, allowing people to coexist. So if people came to her, it didn't matter who they were, what. And she was kind of like a catalyst to people would come to her, and she just loved them regardless. She accepted them regardless. And I think that in some way, I just absorbed and learned this. And after my dad died, she was alone, and she spent so much time with the Spirit, with the Holy Spirit, and she did that Course of Miracles book, and she just gave me little lessons. I'd spend time with her and just the lessons and the growth and the watching her. So when she was ill, I had the privilege of being the person to look after her. She chose me. So I stopped my practice, and my husband said to me, look, we've got no money. I can't help you there, but I can give you time. Go and be with her. Go and do what you need to do. And it was the biggest, greatest privilege of my entire life. And I think, if anything, that has defined really who I am now, because she was ready. She lovingly went in her own home. Yes, it was horrible at the end. I mean, it always is. But that immense love that surrounded her life. And I think that is what has made me who I am now. And I think it's a culmination of all the other experiences and the things like that she gave me, or that she showed me, that made me, that probably is why going into this field and moving forward and changing and growing has been her. Having also said that, my father was a similar kind of person, in the sense that he was a director for one of the biggest advertising agencies in South Africa. And when my brother was born and had this diabetes, he went off and literally overnight went off and studied homeopathy, and changed from this big corporate guy to this homeopath, which in his time was freak out. It was like, wow. So I think in many ways I've followed his little channel, and I've got his energy coming in another direction, So I suppose I've just been so blessed and so fortunate to have those people in my life teaching me the lessons that have helped me be stable in this, because I can honestly say my ego kind of corporate side is like, wow, what am I doing now? During COVID, not seeing clients, it's scary on the one hand, but on the other hand, the wealth of stuff within me that I've got to draw on, and the realness, not the color of the brochure and the amount of money we're wasting on whether it's this red or that red, but on how do you really feel? How are you going to grow as a person? How can I help you be a better you? How can I work with you on creating a better self-esteem? And, seeing somebody grow in their self-esteem as a person and walking out of that office, with this light on their face, the richness and the reason for being seems to be so much more solid and worthwhile, I think.
So what would be the belief that works for you the most?
Trust. I guess I trust comes to mind. I trust. I think sometimes when we say I love you, or I love, when you say the you at the end, it kind of shortens it, or it's small. But if I find if it's more strong and it's more real if I say I love, I am love. I trust. I am trust. So, and the thing is, I'm trying to think what it is. I can do anything. I suppose the belief is it always works out, because somehow we always do things. I managed to lose a good 25 kilograms and to keep it off. I mean, I've been married 20 years now, and when I met my husband, I was already, or 22 years, I had already lost the weight. So, I mean, I kept it off for many years, and even through pregnancy I did. I used to smoke heavily, and using sort of the movie of the mind, I stopped smoking. And, there's so many things that I've managed to overcome. Even that, you're going to just be ill for the rest of your life after the accident. I've overcome that. And yes, I don't run far or fast, but I can do a little run. I can do Pilates. I can do things still. So, and as long as I don't allow the victim and I go, I trust, I can do it, then I'm happy, then I'm okay. And if I do listen to my body, because some days I can't go because it doesn't feel like it, and I say it's okay, it's a rest day. Yeah, so it always works out.
It always works out, and trust.
It's like a hindsight thing. So while I'm going through something, sometimes if I start getting, like I said, a bit hyped up, then I do the colors, and I just have to say, I can do it. It always, somehow, Suzanne, I've made it through. We lost everything. We lost our business. We came down to the Cape a couple of 5 years ago with nothing. We lived in a little shack thing. But somehow we scrape and we make it. Somehow it always works out. Somehow I have the resources to find what it is and how I need, which is now happening with COVID. I'm having to find the resources to build something new, to change my practice, to move into a new direction. And I'm not fully sure how it is or where it's going. But if I do the colors and allow myself to know that it always works out, I promise you it does, but I only ever see it afterwards in hindsight. But if I work on myself, it does.
And how does trust feel to you? How do you know that you trust? If I am to tap into your sense of trust, what would you tell me?
I feel like it's almost like a purpose, because it took so long. And it's, you know what I think? For me, trust is what I'm here to learn, in a sense. Because it doesn't come naturally or easy. But when I trust, when I go into that flow and I just say, I trust, it brings a calm upon me. It brings a sensation in my sort of, my whole solar plexus, my heart. And it's like, it's okay, you know. But I think it's like a life lesson in a way.
So it's a flow and it's a calm feeling for you. And it's a knowing, you know.
It's almost like it settles. It's yeah. It's like it just settles on me. And it's just a...
Wonderful. Would you have a technique to do with me and with everybody watching to bring us into that feeling of trust and calm and flow? Or if, let's say, I was experiencing now a feeling of anxiety, because many people go through this feeling, experience this feeling these days.
Yes,
and
okay.
You would tell me, Susanna, you have to trust that things would go well. And then if you go into this trust, if you tap into this feeling, things will actually flow. How would you help me to move from anxiety into that feeling of trust, feeling connected, being in that knowing of that power of who I am, and just having the wisdom to allow things to just unfold in front of my eyes?
Okay. There's a few things. The one would be that we do what we've just done now with the colors, where we just sort of get you into the phase of colors. Perhaps we do it differently because we've done that. And let's do just like a little visualization. So if you can with me now, just touch the top of your head.
Touch the top of my head?
Yeah, and as you touch the top of your head, just allow a sense of peace to come across there. So the body's feeling quite anxious, and as you touch your head, imagine what it can be. You can take your hand away now, and you've just put it up there. And if you wish, you can close your eyes. If you wish, you can keep them open. It doesn't matter. But just imagine now that what you've touched your head with is perhaps like a magic wand. And just notice the sensation or the feeling that's beginning. It may be a sparkly, it may be a color, it may be a light. But just focus on that right at the top of your head now. You may even feel nothing, so just thinking about it is fine. It's quite okay. But just allow that now, that color, that feeling, that light, that whatever it is, to begin to go down as if we want to sort of bring it from above into your body. Maybe imagine a plunger, one of those coffee things, and just sense it now beginning to go down the forehead. And as it does, just allow the forehead to relax. And as it trickles into the facial muscles, allow all the facial muscles to just relax now, calming. Imagine as if all the little nerves and muscles in and around the eyes are just relaxing now, calming. And as you allow it to flow down the face, the back of the head, the scalp relaxes. And plunge it down. Notice now, is it still the same color? Is it changing? Or is it a light, a sensation? As you gently allow it to drift down the shoulders, down your body now, the back, And as it goes down, releasing, relaxing, untensing, unwinding, just letting you know that you have this incredible resource within you as you're filling up with this resource. And it's gently drifting, relaxing the muscles, relaxing the mind, relaxing the body, allowing you to connect to that which it is, which is now gently flowing into your body, slowly filling you up. And as it fills you up, you're allowing whatever it is that you don't want, that anxiety, stress, and fear, to just gently move its way down. And it's starting to move out the body now as this beautiful magic source, light, color, continues to move down into the belly area as it goes down the arms too. And as it reaches the belly, it's an area sometimes that stress and anxiety tends to hold on to, so allow it to dissolve away like a fizzy tablet dissolving in a glass. And it can replace any of those sensations, feelings, moving down the body, down into the hands and the palms of your fingers, your palms and fingertips. And just notice as it reaches there, everything you don't need, just gently pouring out the body, out the feet, out the hands. As it shifts down now, past the hips and the long thigh muscles, releasing, relaxing. Again, the muscular area, the muscles are sort of where we hold sometimes tension between. So as this beautiful energy flows, notice the body, the cells in the body becoming less dense, separating, calmer. More space in amongst the cells as you just let that anxiety, that stress pour from out the body. You may even notice that on either side of you there's some little channels that roll off to the side or off into a big bin. That stress and anxiety is just rolling down that hill through those little gutters, I suppose. As it goes out your body, it's just rolling out and away. And this beautiful relaxation continues past the knees, down the calf muscles, ankles, and pushing everything you don't need all the way out the feet. Filling your body now with this resource. And now just feel this resourcefulness within you. And if you haven't given it a color, perhaps it's a light, perhaps it's an energy. And as I said before, the thoughts don't mind. Thoughts in your mind don't matter. Sounds around you don't matter. Whether you see it, feel it, experience it, just think about it is fine. But begin to allow this now as it continues to fill your body. Allow it to begin to fill out the pores, to push outwards, forming a protection around you. Protection of this beautiful, trusting, knowledgeable resource. Till it's even flowing out from the feet so that you can then put a layer of protection around you, around the entire body, an oval, circle, and now let that expand, getting bigger. Allow it into the entire room, to fill the entire room from your body. You may even notice your body's lightly lifting, gently. And you can allow it now to flow out into the suburbs where you live. And just spread this resourceful love to as far as you choose right now. And before we come back to now, just allow yourself to form that as a protection around you. Allow that aura to stay around you so that you will only accept what is good and resourceful. And it will keep you in that trusting, that knowing that you are safe. You are resourceful. You are beautiful. You are powerful. And you are just as you're meant to be. And when that's all connected within the conscious and subconscious, and you feel ready, you can just gently open your eyes.
I almost don't want to come out of this state.
You can stay there.
I feel so wonderfully relaxed and aware and alert at the same time, being peaceful and grounded. And your voice is so soothing and so loving. You have an amazing voice, Leigh.
Thank you.
I know now why you chose hypnotherapy.
Thank you.
I hope everybody watching this enjoys as much as I enjoy this experience. It's really wonderful, and it feels like it's a grounding wave that still goes down. As if I'm pushed down, I'm very active, and I can get to be agitated and be all over the place. And it feels good when I'm just, something like, okay, can just sit there for a moment and you'll be okay. That's the feeling that I got, like it's okay to just sit and do nothing and know that you're loved. Oh, I love this. I love this. Thank you so much for doing this with us here today. I don't know how much time we have left because we had an interruption. We had a technical problem earlier. So probably we should wrap it up. Too bad we didn't get to talk about the timeline techniques, but hey, who knows? Why would we limit ourselves to only one interview? We can meet again and maybe talk about timeline techniques, because I'd like to explore that. Yeah, and why not? I mean, there's no rules on how many interviews we can do. So anytime you want to talk again, let me know. Any last word you would like to say to our viewers or to people that are watching now and are concerned about what's happening, that they're worried about themselves, about their future? Some words of encouragement and wisdom.
I think, what comes to mind, especially because, we sort of connected through NLP, is whatever you think you are so much more than that. And I just think that's so real and so true, because every soul I meet, and I find it even true for myself, no matter who you think you are so much more. You are valuable beyond words, really. And that's what I can sort of, if I think if we could just all realize how beautiful and how okay we are in our own right.
Wow, that's fantastic. So whatever you think you are, you're much more than that. Wow, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much, Leigh. Thank you for coming here today, and thank you for your patience during the technical issues.
Thank you for the opportunity, Suzanne. I really enjoyed it, and I'd love to come and chat about timeline techniques.
Absolutely,
sometime.
We'll do that sometime soon. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Perfect.
to all of you watching this, thank you so much for watching the video, for liking, subscribing, sharing, and for being a part of this beautiful process of getting closer to the truth, tapping into who we really are and who we can become.